And when I come back after a weekend away, there's only one person I want to see. Isabel Oakeshott, a very good evening.
Hi, I've been wondering, if Welby has to resign, does that mean he can't be plank of the week anymore? Because he's always nominated, isn't he?
Well, I'm going to do two things, right? I'm going to start by reading, because most people who watch and listen to Talk would agree with us that Justin Welby, whether you think that church people should have opinions in politics, whether they should be in the House of Lords, that's to one side. My opinion is really, really simple, Isabel. When you stick your nose into almost everything, for example, here are some of the examples of him making a fool of himself when it comes to politics. He called the EU the greatest dream realised for human beings since the fall of the Western Roman Empire. He linked Brexit to Trump and fascism. That worked then. He hired numerous staffers from the Labour Party. He made comparisons of the Rwanda plan to the Nazis and called it ungodly. He likened the climate threat to Nazism and later apologised for doing so. He entered talks with MPs to chair a citizens' assembly to stop no deal, and he complained that the Brexit deal would create a disastrous precedent in 2020. This is a man, Isabel Oakeshott, who has known for 11 years that John Smyth, a clergyman, committed 132 abuse cases against innocent young choir boys. The man needs to go, doesn't he?
Oh, 100%. But I mean, I'd like to have seen him gone over any number of the things that you've just read out there. You know, for me, Justin Welby has been the single worst thing to happen to the Church of England for decades, if not longer than that. I think he's been an absolutely woeful leader of the Church of England. I will never forget the way the Church of England let down its flock during the pandemic. You know, generations of churchgoers who were simply abandoned. The church was utterly cowardly and craven, and that was under the Archbishop's leadership. So really, in my view, he should have resigned over his failure to provide what he should have provided to congregations during that period. And then there's all that other stuff that you've just read out, the ludicrous party politicking, the inappropriate interference, sticking his oar in left, right and centre. And now we hear of this cover-up. So I'd like to see him gone. I think it would be much better for the church. It needs all the help it can get, not that kind of leader.
We've got a statement from the Archbishop of Canterbury in this world of balancing things out, Isabel. The Archbishop reiterates his horror at the scale of John Smith's egregious abuse as reflected in his public apology. He has apologised profoundly both for his own failures and omissions and for the wickedness, concealment and abuse by the church more widely. As he said, he had no awareness or suspicion of the allegations before being told in 2013, and therefore, having reflected, he does not intend to resign. He hopes the Make-In review supports the ongoing work of building a safe, fairer church here and around the world is able to happen. A safe, fairer world or church in a world with a man who kept that quiet for 11 years. I'm not altogether sure that's possible, Isabel.
No, I don't think he is. Look, he's been in that job, you know, long enough for us all to know what he is and isn't about. And all too often on this programme, we're talking about things that Justin Welby has done wrong. And I don't remember any previous Archbishop of Canterbury getting into so much regular hot water as he does. And I feel like this is kind of representative of a new culture in top leadership positions. No one ever resigns voluntarily anymore, do they? No. You know, what does it take nowadays to actually prompt somebody in a position of high office to step down honourably? They don't do it. They basically think that they can just brazen it out. And the truth is that sometimes they can just brazen it out. That doesn't make them more dignified or honourable for doing so. It makes them self-seeking. It's
interesting, though. I had a reverend on who was, although a little bit more sympathetic than I am to Welby, said he thinks the church has got this absolutely wrong. And when he said he's lost the dressing room, what he called it the vestry. I mean, that senior female bishop coming out today from Newcastle saying you should go. That could be the start of the end for somebody who, it's going to be a loss to us. Plank of the week's never going to be the same again, is it? But Justin Welby, to me, you reap what you sow. I'm not getting religious, but I think it's absolutely true. The other thing is, now I'd like you to try and take an opposite view, and I want you to be nice and calm, because COP29 starting in Baku, as you know, Isabel, and our new energy secretary, Ed Miliband, whose beef in life is to create renewable energy. Have a watch. See what you make of this.
Have you ever played 193-dimensional chess? That's what I was doing back in 2009 at the Copenhagen Climate Summit, trying to get 193 countries to reach agreement. Yes, it's true, I did look younger then. I'm about to go and do it again in Azerbaijan at COP29. But why? Because it's the once-a-year chance to put world leaders on the spot to act on climate change. And at this year's COP, you'll have a British government representing you that believes in doing its bit at home and showing leadership abroad. Everything we're doing in Britain, from Great British Energy to our Clean Power Plan, is about lower bills, energy security, jobs and growth. But if we're going to keep future generations safe from the threat of climate change, we've also got to work with other countries. This government believes climate security is national security. That's why I'll be going to COP29 to play climate chess and fight for Britain.
Isabel, can I ask you the question I've asked both Benedict and...
You're not going to do that like he does all the way through that video. How annoying is that?
Well, he's stupid. I hate him. Sorry, climate security is national security, right? We've got a foreign secretary who said that the climate issue is greater than international world terrorism and potential conflict in David Lammy, who also called Donald Trump an idiot. So he's not long for this world, to be fair, is he, politically? But, I mean, what is that about, mate? Is it me? Tell me, because you've always been honest. Because what I don't understand about this climate debate, probably not intelligent enough, you lot are, is everybody goes on about, if we don't get net zero and we don't do this and we don't do that, everybody's going to die. And cynically, when I'm joking about it, I go, well, I'm 60, I don't care. But let's talk about what's going on in the real world. We are spending billions and billions of pounds on something that's not going to make energy cheaper. It's going to cost jobs. And we sit on oil and gas, a reserve, an ability to make money and benefit our country. And we're being led down this carbon, whatever you want to call it, topa. It's pointless. That man genuinely thinks he's doing us all a favour, Isabel. It's extraordinary.
Well, you really touched on something then when you said that you don't understand it, or you're not clever enough or something like that. And that is how they all make anyone who has instinctive doubts about this whole agenda feel. They make us feel as if we're just not smart enough. We can't understand the science. We're, Philistines. We're idiots. We're ignoramuses. The truth is that a lot of people instinctively feel that something is not right with this whole hysterical race to net zero, for which we all have to make so many financial sacrifices. The sacrifices amount to something like £1,300 per household per year to pay for the net zero agenda. And even if we all make these sacrifices, and that's just the tip of the supposedly melting iceberg, even if we make these sacrifices, America has just elected a president who is going to have no truck with any of this whatsoever. So we're basically dying on an altar which is not even recognised by the leader of the free world. Meanwhile, China is pumping out as many carbon emissions as it can.
That's my other point, Isabel. That's my other thing. So there's this great thing, and I blame Johnson as well. We're going to head for net zero by 2030. It's going to cost billions, and we probably won't even get there anyway. It's going to give you lower bills. No, it's got. Everybody's bloody bills have gone up. And then the other thing that just would send you through the roof is, what about China? What about all these other countries? No, we've got to do it because it's ideology. I'm with Trump, sorry. Drill, baby, drill. Frack, I don't care. We've got income under our feet. What is wrong with these people? How does Ed Miliband understand that I mean, maybe he doesn't, maybe I'm missing the point. Does Ed Miliband not understand in this race, and I don't even know, by the way, what climate change chess is. I nearly said the wrong word about it. Then what the hell's that all about? Does he not actually think more about what it's going to do? If you said to him 4,000 pensioners are going to die this winter, go, yeah, we need to make sure that doesn't happen in the next 50 years. It's happening now, you idiot. Give your money to the pensioners now. He spent
Oh, look, the whole thing, I think if you don't, there's that whole cliche, if you don't understand something, follow the money. You cannot begin to imagine the vested interests that are making off like bandits on the back of this agenda. And before the usual suspects all pile in and call us climate change deniers, I'm not denying that the climate is changing, but there's a whole world of difference, as well they know, between questioning whether or not the climate is changing. I think it's pretty overwhelmingly clear that weather patterns are changing, and questioning what is the right way to respond to that and how much can we actually do about it. Are we so superhuman that we can literally change the weather in a short period of time? Possibly not, and it's perfectly reasonable to ask those questions without being smeared as.
But isn't it about priorities, Isabel? Isn't it about, again, the one thing that sort of resonated with me last week about Trump winning was that you had this sort of Washington-based ideology about, what you should treat school children like, what you should teach them, women's rights, all for all of that, but you go amongst those American people and they all talk about the price of gas, the price of groceries, as I've already said, and what's happening on their borders. Why do politicians across the world, but I'm talking about this country, they've got their ideas, they've got their beliefs, they're going to stop listening to the British public. Something's going to happen in this country, probably with your party, with the reform, because I think people are fed up to be... What did he say? You've got a government that's going to Baku that is spreading your word that climate security is national... Oh, sod off, Miliband. You're not talking for me. I'm not paying £1,000 a year to... No way. I'd rather give that £1,000 to pensioners and veterans. Why can't I do that?
Yeah, I mean, that comment rankled with me as well when he said that. Just that assumption that there is a kind of shared and collective consensus amongst all voters that this is the agenda that our government should be following. I think most people, of course, we want to preserve climate habitats, we want to preserve species. No one wants to see Britain, turned into some kind of horrible polluted wasteland, but that's actually really different from the net zero agenda. Yeah, there's some overlap, but actually the net zero agenda is a huge threat to habitats with all its supposedly necessary carpeting the UK with solar panel farms and ugly pylons everywhere. It's not actually necessary to do all of this. And as you say, it is going to make people poorer. It is threatening tens of thousands of jobs. That is a reality. There are people who have already lost their jobs in steel manufacturing because of the climate change agenda. So I think this whole thing is bonkers. And I think Trump is a huge threat to Ed Miliband's net agenda.
And I think he's a threat to NATO, and all the people that jump up and down going, oh, he's against NATO. No, actually, I'll tell you what he is, right? I'll tell you what he is. He thinks that everybody should pay their 2%, and he's not prepared to pay more than that unless everybody else pays. While we're talking about other things, two very other quick things. This is shocking news, Isabel. Prepare yourself to be shocked. I want you to put a shocked face on. 15 weeks into a Labour government, the Home Office, get ready for a shock face, have announced that smashing the gangs, Labour's policy on dealing with migration, won't work, Isabel. Huh?
Oh, shocked. There was me thinking. Oh, honestly. I'm really disappointed. I always thought that smashing the gangs was the answer.
Did you?
I never thought it had anything to do with the demand for people to come over the channel. I never thought it had anything to do with the fact that it's so obvious that if you can just make it across the channel, you're going to be looked after and you've got a tiny chance of ever being returned. Nah, it was nothing to do with that.
It's just nothing to do with the hotels. Winter's coming, pensioners will freeze to death. You get a nice hotel, you get some money, you get a mobile phone. No, honestly, if I'd thought that, I'd have stayed in France. What an absolute... The Home Office, how many people say to us all the time, not fit for purpose, blah, blah, blah. Well, they seem to have got it absolutely right, because they've managed to smash a hole, excuse the pun, and they smashed the gangs theory of Labour. So it's not going well on that. It's not going well with Trump. And here's my other thing, and I'd love your... Now, I'm in a slightly weaker position because people go, oh, you only do 3 days a week. I do other jobs as well now, obviously. Labour and Angela Rayner have decided the way to create growth and create, successful business and for that to permeate through the economy money-wise, make us all feel better, is to introduce a 4-day working week. Talk to me.
Do you know what's going to happen? There's going to be, at the end of all this, as everything else, so, you know, the welfare state balloons and less people are working hard. What's going to happen is a small number of people are going to just absolutely drive themselves into the ground.
Yep.
Because there will be a small number of grafters who actually say, I don't want a 4-day working week. I actually want to work really productively and hard for at least 5 days a week in a job that I enjoy. And isn't that, I suppose, is the crucial thing. If you like your work, and you and I are probably lucky enough, and I know lots of people aren't, very few people love what they do.
Yeah, I agree.
But that's got to be the quest, to try to find something that pays okay, or at least enough, and that you actually don't find too miserable. And then maybe people would actually want to spend a bit more of their time working and a bit less complaining that it's all too difficult. So I don't see how a 4-day working week is going to be anything other than a total disaster for a country like ours that already has a huge productivity problem. And we've also got such a problem with so many people that can't work, they're too sick. And, you know, I want to emphasize that anyone who's genuinely sick should get the support.
Yes, that, by the way, I think you and I think every single person listening to this would absolutely say, I'm happy to pay my taxes to support people who can't help themselves. In fact, 100%. Pensioners who can't heat their houses, veterans. What I'm not prepared to do is to pay taxes for people to sit on their backsides when patently they are taking advantage of a system. And that system is not only soft with the welfare state, it's soft with migrants. People talk to me the whole time, Isabel, about, but Jez, the deterrent. I'd turn the boats back, more than that, right? Apart from turning the boats back, I'd make it bloody hard to get anything if you do get here in the first place, because all the people who we speak to, Isabel, will say all the time, I've never asked for anything, I've never broken the law, I bet you if I signed on I wouldn't even get a penny. Those are the people that I want to make their lives better. Sorry, that's how I feel.
Completely. And the problem is that people who abuse the system undermine it for those who really need it. And then you just get into a vicious circle, don't you, where a lot of people are piggybacking on those who really need the help the most and those who are grafting to support them, and then we're all unhappy. So that just doesn't work, does it? And I don't see how a 4-day working week is the answer to that. I mean, it has been trialled in other places, hasn't it? I think the results are pretty mixed. But what's, I suppose, different about the UK is we know we've already got a productivity problem. So how is this going to make it any better?
And the government is screwing small businesses with business rates, and that means that their profits will go down and their prices will go up and everybody will suffer. Isabel, it's so good to have you on. I really, really appreciate it. And thank you for the invite. Wink, wink.
No, I look forward to it.
I'm coming.